I'd love to hear what you talked about in those. Is there anything that felt particularly useful or any ideas that came to mind as a result? I always think about the fact that flat pack democracy is ripe for the medium being the message and using like unpacking politics, like do-it-yourself kits with IKEA branding or fake IKEA branding. If you'd like to join in or say anything, then please write stack in the chat, because then I'll know and I won't have to scroll through. Adam, first go.
Hi, Alex. Hi, everyone. I will be checking out your book. I read something similar maybe 5-10 years ago, produced by the Saatchi brothers. I think it was called Brutal Simplicity of Thought. I recalled what was possibly the most devastating political advert, and that was "Labour isn't working," which I believe Saatchi produced. I couldn't help but take it on board for my own project, and it is unfortunately "Politics isn't working." But yeah, so I took on board what you meant about something about those 3-word phrases, very sticky at the moment.
Yeah, totally. Thanks. I want to come to David. You've written, this is about making connections. Do you want to expand on it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm coming from a sort of non-participatory background in that I participated as a documentarist on the Froome experiment, or I wouldn't say it was an experiment, because actually it's something that's happened now, and you know, everything that we're talking about today is coming about perhaps as a result of that success. But really what's important for me about this is just making the connections. I was just talking to somebody from Exeter in my breakout group. I'm in Plymouth. It's not, but it isn't just about the geographic proximity. It's just about knowing that other people are facing the same things as you are, and just sort of demystifying the whole process. So I'm really pleased. I mean, some of the specifics about branding that we've been talking about, I mean, this is all meat and drink as far as I'm concerned, and I'm very happy to hear it. So yeah, no, thank you. Connections, that's what it's like. That's what it's about.
Cool. And Peter, do you want to jump in? Peter.
Hi there. That was superb. Thank you, Alex. It's wonderful. I'm going to get Ecologic books, which I own and run, to sell more pirate on the web. But I'm just asking for advice, because we at Flatpack, we've done rather well at getting our message into the Guardian and, you know, positive news. But I really want to get it into the Telegraph and the Daily Mail, which is literally into the lion's den. I just wondered, because we've sent stuff to them, but they just ignore it. Have you got any advice for us as to how to force them almost to take note of what we're saying?
That's a really good question. And I, just off the top of my head, I was actually having a chat yesterday with a guy called Julian Thompson, who is really Extinction Rebellion at heart, but dabbles in lots of work around community ownership and that sort of stuff. And he mentioned he's running a project, I think it's I want to say it's Norfolk, where he set up a community benefit society to kind of buy back the local pub. Anyway, the point being is that he's very much looking at because the whole county is blue. And so he's like, really, we're not going to get anywhere long term in terms of real community cohesion if we don't engage with people who maybe, definitely don't relate to any of us as Extinction Rebellion, but maybe don't relate to us at all. And he's thought of, like, there's a few kind of key crossover areas around agency and ownership that are common shared values that you can start to tap into. So I think it's like that, and that struck me as a really good approach, like tap into the few things where there is some common ground. And that's kind of the Froome example as well, isn't it? That it was more about what do we have in common here. So I think the Telegraph will pick it up if you're speaking to their audience, figuring out who their audience really is and what they're likely to care about. So if you can find, find a bit of common ground rather than going, and maybe that's a bit of a covert kind of message, but you are still going to the lion's den in some respect, but you're finding what the lion likes to eat. I guess.
Preferably not you.
Figuring that out. I just wanted to, because just to finish off the session, we've got about 15 minutes left. And I do want to share this last point with you, because I think it is really helpful and powerful. And it definitely speaks to the point about, I think, relationships a bit more than a lot of what I've talked about so far is branding and boldness, and that is useful. But one thing that the pirate community has taught me, and I put this into the second book a bit because it seemed so important, that really weaponizing a story, you have to put yourself in it. You have to own it in some way. And I've heard this said back to me by a lot of other activists and things as well. We did a couple of recordings for our forthcoming podcast, and at least 2 people said, I didn't realize I was the story. And using the personal thread to talk about why you've arrived at what you're doing now. And maybe this feels to you like very, very normal, and maybe this is how you already approach it. But I think the tendency I definitely saw this tendency when I was at the RSA, but the tendency can be to start your kind of pitch with statistics and research and go, this is factually why we should be doing this, and that's actually not the right way in. So I wanted to share just one exercise, and I thought we could take a couple of minutes to think about it. I did this as part of a leadership course, and they asked me to write down all the moments of my life that felt significant in relation to leadership. And they said, any examples of really bad leadership, any examples of really good leadership, any examples of where you actively changed your mind about leadership. They all form your story as to why you are where you are now, why your values have come to this point of going, we need change. And then once you've written your timeline, and I'm not going to suggest we write a whole timeline now, it's something that would be really, really useful to go away and do, but maybe just pick one incident, focus on one incident that you can think of in memory that felt really meaningful or really pivotal to you. And we're going to spend 2 minutes just writing that down. But first I'll tell you mine, which is when I studied A-level politics. I've always been interested in politics. And my politics teacher was a great storyteller. And he said flippantly one day, we were studying US politics, there'll never be a Black president. And I'm at the time thinking, God, that just seems awful. I said, are you sure? And he was like, I'm fairly certain it won't happen. It's just too dangerous. Colin Powell was going to run, but then the risk was too high. And I thought, God, that is just really sad. And then, of course, within the scope of about 6 or 7 years, Obama was elected. And I remember messaging my old politics teacher on Facebook and saying, by the way, you were wrong. Not that he remembered or cared, but for me, the really important point was I realized the people that I thought knew it all could be wrong. And that made me change my mind about possibility, about the idea of possibility and what could happen, and that things could change in an instant. And it changed my outlook on the kind of things that I wanted to do and the kind of things that I wanted to work on as a result. So that's just one quick example. So I'm going to time us for, I think we'll say 3 minutes. Just take a bit of quiet reflection to think about a moment that's been meaningful for you. Okay. Time's up. So quickly, I'm conscious that we've got about 7 minutes left before the next session. And I'd like to say first up that the next session on social media campaigning specifically will take a lot of the ideas around weaponizing the story and be more specific and about how to really do this stuff on social media and digitally. So I do encourage you to join James's session because he is also a pirate, and it will be nice and complimentary. But I want to give you a chance to have a little bit of a break before that if you do want to do both, because it's a long 2 hours. So obviously, yeah, feel free to jump off and take a break now for the next 5 minutes if you need to. Otherwise, if anyone would like to share what they wrote down as a personal memory or story, I'd love for you to come forward. So just write stack in the chat as before. Do I dare? Okay, we'll do Roman and then we'll maybe ask Carolyn.
Yeah, I guess mine's kind of a funny story about leadership actually, but it is just what came to mind thinking about flat pack and people just kind of just going for stuff and like feeling their own sort of sense of power. And it was, I don't know if anybody was involved. I've done stuff with Extinction Rebellion previously, and a couple of years ago, like one of the first kind of big moments we did was when we blocked 5 bridges in central London at the same time. And I was involved in the build up to that and was supposed to be kind of involved in the Waterloo Bridge, kind of like the take of that site sort of thing. Now that point, it was all like, it was chaos. It was all over the place. I mean, like those people were getting involved, and we had sort of like nominally named coordinators, which I was supposed to be one of. Now I'm being in the north side of Waterloo Bridge in a cafe there with a whole bunch of people. We're all kind of like nervous and like thinking about when to go out and like try and get onto this bridge. And when we finally decided to do that, there was loads of people already in the middle of the bridge who'd already gone on and already blocked it, and the police were already like, you know, kind of confused and didn't really know what to do. And it was just, it kind of just came to mind now, kind of thinking about flat pack and at the beginning, you know, Kay, who was just so like, just go for it sort of thing. And it was just a funny experience to be kind of like supposedly like one of the coordinators of this kind of elaborate maneuver we were trying to do. But when I kind of got there, people had already just taken it upon themselves and just done it because they already felt like they already felt empowered themselves to kind of get on with it and do that block of the bridge. So I guess just kind of within the flat pack context as well, just people feeling empowered to kind of get on with stuff and just like take the initiative. It sort of reminded me of that. But also just funny because I was supposed to be like one of the coordinators, and you know the other few people who also we were all terrified and didn't know what we were doing when we kind of like finally went for it. They'd already gone for it themselves and taken the initiative anyway. So yeah, it was a funny experience.
Perhaps I could add that what you did worked, because I was actually on the planning committee at North Somerset Council, which turned down the Bristol Airport expansion, and there was obviously lots of protests from Extinction Rebellion. But I think without the work you did, the vote wouldn't have necessarily gone that way. So well done. A little moment I quite liked was after the day after, a cardboard statue appeared in the town hall, obviously put there by Extinction Rebellion, which said thank you to the far-sighted councillors in 2020 who turned down the expansion. So yeah, I thought it was very well done. So.
Great. Yeah, I think go to Carolyn, but I'd just say that the point of this is that we are essentially, we know this already. We know this, and it's a mistake we should never be making again. We are moved to do things because of each other, not because of statistics and research. Like it just doesn't work. So so it's just a way of checking yourself. Start with the story, and quite often you are the vehicle for that. And this, I think, this idea of owning the story can take into account all of those previous lessons about making it simple, making it specific, and being the medium yourself. Carolyn, do you want to jump in with a story? You're still there.
Well, I was just going to tell one that was very memorable to me way back in the day. We were doing some kind of leadership training, office bonding kind of thing out in the woods. And we had 2 long pieces of wood with ropes coming out of them. And you would stand with one foot on one piece of wood and the other foot on the other piece of wood. And then you're supposed to kind of walk the wood. And I ended up on the front of this wood thing. And I'm like, great, I'm the leader. We're going to do it my way. And everybody's going to do what I say. So I'm like, okay, lift. And I turn around, nobody's lifting. And I'm looking behind them. And I'm like, well, why are we not going anywhere? And I realized, okay, I'm the leader, I'm in charge, I get to do what I want, but we're not going anywhere unless everybody else on this board is coming with me. So I had to figure out a way to make this happen. So just being put in front does not make you the leader, is what I learned.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna stop there with this session because we're gonna I'm gonna introduce James, and we're gonna start part 2 of this section of the summit conference, whatever we're calling it. So James Berg, do you want to just want to wave?
Hi everyone, thanks for that session as well, Alex. That's brilliant.
Cool. So James is, I guess, is part of the wider Be More Pirate crew network. He is a sort of social media guru, I'd say. I know guru is an awful word to use, but he is founder of Picaroons, which is a social media marketing crew built on pirate principles. And I'll leave it up to him to go further than that. I'll keep an eye on the waiting room.
Great. So can I take over now, Alex?
Yes, please do.
Wonderful. Guys, thank you very much for joining. I realise it's a Saturday afternoon now, so hopefully this session will be really nice and interesting for you. And as Alex said there, this session is going to be on how to use social media to increase the success of your campaign. That session from Alex was great on helping us what our story is, own the story. And I hope from this now, you're really going to be inspired to go and spread that story in the most simple way. One of the ways I always like to do things, guys, very open. So please do drop any questions in the chat. Alex, if you could interrupt me at any point if there's any questions to jump out, and every now and then I'll jump into the chat and have a look. But yeah, I'm gonna start straight away. So Picaroons, this is the company which I started off the back of reading Be More Pirate. So I know Alex said I'm a pirate, but it really is as much as the book helped form the business plan for Picaroons. And what we are is a content marketing crew built on pirate principles. Now, what we do is these 3 main things. The first is setting people up for success, helping them with their branding, with their logos, with their content strategy. And then it really goes into the creating content for them. I've got the best animators, videographers, graphic designers, photographers from kind of all around. And then using the pirate principles, we are a freelance crew, so we can band up and band back down at any point. And then we have our ongoing health checks, where mostly myself is inserted in a company as a sort of ongoing consultant to help support them. Across our crew, these are some of the brands that we've worked on in the past. So I really do, when I say I've got the best animators, videographers, all those guys, I feel that I do. I know I'm biased, but they've really worked on all different brands. And what we've tried to do is take our learnings from all of that and then apply that to content marketing and to helping our clients increase their sales, donations, or leads. We're very much not about focusing on likes and empty followers and actually focusing on action. So hopefully the tips that I help you guys with today, you'll be able to go and action straight away for that. So the next hour, what we're going to go through is have a little bit of an introduction, kind of what we can use, how we can use that. Then we're really going to spend the bulk of this time on social media ideas for your campaign. Now, I want to make this clear to you all now. These are going to be very much about a lot of ideas I'm going to share with you. I'm not saying you have to do them all, but it's about you being able to pick a few of them and go, oh, great, I can action that. Because something that I said actually in the breakout room before, but I always say to people is, remember, when you see these massive campaigns and massive brands putting out big campaigns, that's sometimes a team of 20, 30 experts working on it for months. Whereas our kind of pirate rule that we've tried to break is how can we make that advice really simple and give you some easy to action tactics that at the end of today, you can go away and action straight away. So please do be aware when I go through these, I'm not saying you have to action everything. It's about you taking little bits of inspiration that you can go away and action straight away. Then we're going to go into some extra lessons, some little things you can take away, some tips and tricks that I've learned that I hope are going to help you guys in what you're doing and really spread the success of your campaign. Some action points for you, and then we'll spend any time on questions. But as I said, if there's any questions throughout, drop them in the chat box. Alex, if you could just monitor that for me, and then every now and then I'll jump in and answer some of those. So my aim for today, I want you guys to leave this session inspired to create effective content, not just be posting, but things that are actually going to be effective in spreading that campaign and help you understand how to do it on a consistent basis. So the question I was asked at the beginning of these sessions is, how do you use social media to increase the success of your campaign? Now, guys, as I said, we try and keep things simple. You've got to be interesting. Now, don't worry, that's not the end of the session. I'm now going to spend the rest of the session teaching you how you can be interesting. I loved Alex's analogy on going into the lion's den. I suppose some of our thinking, and this might not even make sense, but it's try and kind of bring the lions to you, try and attract them in a way that they're starting those conversations with you, or that means that when you go into the lion's den, in a way, they're kind of thinking, we're waiting for you. We've been wanting to speak to you anyway. And that's what hopefully some of these tips will get you guys wanting to do. So this is something I like to show people. It's your audience's life. And here's that thing you do. They've got so much else going on that that thing you do takes up such a small part of that. And it's not just you there. It's all the brands trying to get their attention, other messages. Now, this is going to sound meaner than it is, so hear me out. What I always take from that is that no one cares about you. Now, what I mean by that in a positive way is that because no one cares about you, I can't see you all, but just a quick show of hands on who sometimes put a post out and worried if they've got it right, or who sometimes spent far too long thinking up the idea for a post. I can only see a couple of you, so a couple of hands, but I'm going to hope there's some hands up there. And what I find by that is that we spend so much time thinking our posts, but actually people scroll through 300 feet of content on average every day. That's the same size as the Statue of Liberty. So I say to people, remember, no one is overthinking and overanalyzing your post as much as you are, which is even more reason just to start posting, just to get out there and start putting things out there. And likewise, the second part of that is with that 300 feet of content, you've got to be interesting to stand out so that that thing you do takes up more space in your audience's life. So this is kind of one of our guiding theories, that if you are interesting 90% of the time, then the other 10% of the time you can put a call to action. So for you guys, if your campaign is vote now, sign up here, join this event, if you're interesting 90% of the time, that other 10%, when you ask people to click, share, sign up, vote, it's going to be more likely to land. Now, throughout this session, when I talk about social media, these are the channels I speak about: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, Pinterest, and TikTok. Now, guys, I'm not saying do them all. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, which platform should I be on? I always say to people, especially at the beginning level, focus on the ones you feel comfortable with. Whichever ones you feel most comfortable with, focus on those. And as I said, it's sometimes when you see people across all of these, it's teams of people. So this is really how to be interesting. And I have a whole workshop where I run through all of these. But for the purpose of today, we're going to be a bit more focused with this. And this is what's going to make your campaign more successful. Now, the first one is to have a plan. And a lot of this has been covered in earlier sessions today, especially in Alex's session, about understanding who you are, understanding what your story is, what your strategy is. Having that plan in place allows you to move ahead, move forwards, and almost be unwavering in your, right, we haven't got loads of likes and followers right now, but we know this content we're putting out is edging us closer towards that plan we're working towards. The second part of that is being creative. Now, hopefully part of what we're going to share today is going to be focused a bit more on the being creative, some tactics, some ideas, and something I always say to people when it comes to being creative, remember, you don't always have to make the ideas yourself. There are whole platforms where people just share news from other people, and they essentially turn themselves into a news source by sharing other people's posts. That's creativity as well. The third one that I always recommend to people is scheduling. Now, I don't know if anyone here is already doing this, but hands up quickly if anyone is doing a scheduling, is using something like Hootsuite, Buffer, or Facebook Business Manager. I can't actually see many of you, so again, hopefully there's some hands up there. But what I always recommend is, look, we're all very busy. Now, one of the main problems people come to me with is they say, look, I don't have time to post on social media. Well, did you know that with these scheduling tools, with Hootsuite, with Buffer, and on the Facebook tools, you can do this as well if you have a Facebook page, you can schedule posts in advance. Now, if I tell you by the 1st of January, I had the first 2 months of this year's posts already made and scheduled for our social media feeds on Picaroons. Now, that means for 2 months, I don't need to be thinking at 10 p.m. in the evening when I finish work, oh gosh, I haven't had a chance to post today, I need to post something. And then I'm posting at 11 p.m. when all my audience are asleep. So guys, I always suggest having a look at those scheduling tools. Do check those out. And we can share the links afterwards as well if that's something you haven't got written down yet. And then engage. Engaging with posts is how you become interesting. I say to people, you know, it's social media. Put the social in it. Go on other people's posts, comment on it, engage, share your opinion. It hasn't always got to be you creating the content, but if you go and comment on someone else's post, you can start a discussion. I've had days, we had one day when I put out a report for Picaroons. I paid 3 of our Picaroons, maybe about a week they spent making this amazing report. I got more business leads off the fact that I commented on someone else's LinkedIn status. And I can't remember what it was I commented, but a bit of a discussion. I got more people messaging me asking for leads than I did for this report we'd made. So remember, sometimes if you're not as comfortable creating the content yourself, just share your opinion on other people's posts. Just before we jump in, I'm just going to open the chat quickly just to check if there's anything. So these people talking about the social media logos. Yeah, sorry. Hopefully when I went through those, it made sense.
I think we're good, James.
What's that? Sorry, Alex?
I think we're good.
Wonderful.
I think we're good.
I'm seeing about Luke saying spend an hour scheduling on the weekend. Yeah. And guys, like I said, I kind of run whole sessions on this of how you can do this. But sometimes you might schedule months in advance. Sometimes you might schedule, I used to love doing it, where on a Saturday morning, I go to a coffee shop, nice and relaxed, and I'd schedule all the posts for that week. So again, part of my teaching is always find the style that works for you. So now it's some of the ideas. This can be very tactical. Now, I always recommend to people to get you in the creative mindset. This is a really great book. It's called Still Like an Artist. I believe everyone is creative. Everyone was once a child, and children are the most creative, mad. They come out with these amazing things. But sometimes as we age, we forget that crazy creativity that we used to come out with. I think this is a great book for teaching you how to go back to those creative roots and how actually everyone can be creative. This is also my book, and I always recommend this to people. It's my not subtle plug, 104 social media content ideas to increase sales. Now, guys, what we're about to cover now, a lot of this is what's in my book. It's very simple tactics. I always recommend this to people, not just because I wrote it and it helps me, but also because it's very simple and you can then use this. It's not a book that you'd read and then put down. People use it as a reference for these ideas that we're about to go through now. So on to the ideas. And guys, I'm going to really speed through these very tactical, very big ideas to hopefully give you some inspiration. And remember what I just said? I'm not telling you now you have to action every single one of these ideas or you won't be interesting. You might pick 3 of these, and let's say, please, at a minimum, pick 3 that you think I can start doing those, that you can then action. Now, here where I've got big numbers and simple graphics, anything where you can show, here's the number of people involved in our campaign. Here's the number of lives we plan to change or have changed. Big numbers always work. Now, I know a lot of people are sometimes thinking that's all good and great, but how am I going to design some simple graphics when I'm not a designer? Please go and check out a tool called Canva, C-A-N-V-A. It's free to use, and you can find free graphic design templates. I don't know if anyone's using it already. If you want to drop in the chat, yes or something if you're already using it. It's a great tool. You can put your brand colors in there, your own font. You can find icons, and you can make very simple, highly visual graphics that will tell this story. And I spoke to some great people in the breakout room before, and someone said that they're not the one that uses it, but they've got someone in their team. Guys, if you know anyone in your team, in your campaign group, who likes to get involved in creative things, Canva will be their dream. They will love you forever. Pass it on to them, get them creating using it. It's a brilliant tool. I'm going to jump in the chat to see if we've got so many people using Canva. Yeah, see a few people saying it's amazing, it's easy. Or we could ask Julia to design a poster. Yeah, absolutely. Go and ask Julia. Come and ask us as well. Canva's great, guys. It's a brilliant, brilliant tool, and it means that anyone can get in there and start using it. So next one, explain concepts. Now, I think Alex said this before when we talk about the pirates and the weaponizing the story. And what I love and took from Be More Pirate is keep it simple. How you guys know so much about what it is you're doing, but how do you communicate it in a way that simplifies it for others? Now, at the end of this session, I'm going to share with you guys a few different social media handles that I think do great jobs of creating content, making simple content. But think here, this one, 101 promises Joe Biden made, and it was just simplified. So look, someone like me, if I go on, I'm busy, I'm not necessarily having time to read everything. Just a quick read over gives me all I need to have. And as Alex said, those kind of powerful stories, you can explain the concept of what you stand for, what Flatpak stands for, and also it's about making it simple. You haven't always got to explain everything all in one post. Sometimes it might just be a short statement. Photos, videos, call to action. So NHS charities together, you guys will see here an example. And this is just a nice simple of, this is about an actual charity and event. Get started today. See the link just here, it says bit.ly. Don't forget to use, guys, put photos, put videos, and put a call to action and feel confident to say, sign up, vote now, meet us here, follow us. Like really, by putting all this different content out that's interesting, it means that if once a week you do what I'd call like a hard sell, that will just fit into your general interesting content. Statistics. So I work with this amazing organization called Behind Bras. They are for females that find themselves in prison, training them in fashion and textiles. So when they leave, they can move into employment. It's an unbelievable organization. But something we found is that once you start speaking about prison, a lot of people say, oh, the criminals deserve to be in there. So we're like, right, what can't people argue with? Facts, statistics. So we then searched up all these simple statistics. And guys, this is an example of what you can make on Canva. This was made by the client on Canva after we helped them with the strategy. And it's about showing these things that people have different mindsets. So some people like me, if you put a beautiful visual and a powerful message, I'm hooked. I love a great bit of copy, a great big visual, a great statement. But there's other people where they just think, not interested, give me the numbers. So always look at statistics related to what you do, what the problem is, what the solution could be, and create some of those and post those. Analogies. Now, Alex spoke about these before, and I love Alex. I'll probably be stealing that cottage cheese story now. I think that's just a brilliant one. But anything where you can relate to people, something they already know. Now, there's a lot of things where sometimes people might not understand Flatpak. They might not understand what it is you're trying to do. So if you can relate that, and something you'll see a lot in advertising is for the price of, you could have this for the price of a pint. Now think about that in terms of how can you create analogies that explain what you do. And I think something Alex said that was great was about going to those people that aren't really going to be receptive to the message. What analogies can you make that are almost in their terminology or using examples of things that they understand already? Podcast. So guys, Simple Politics is a great feed. They've done this podcast. And look, at the highest end, you can have podcasts really professionally produced. At the lowest end, if you've got a phone, you've probably got voice notes on it. You can just record something as a voice note and you can post it that way. So again, remember my thing I said before about stop thinking about how much people care and they're not going to go, oh, this isn't that high quality produced. Doesn't matter. Just get it out there, start doing it, and then eventually those opportunities might come to have higher productions. Thank yous, and I call this thank you general. So if you're going to say, thank you for everyone who supported us this year. Thank you for all the people that have been part of our campaign recently, and tag them, because that's, again, it's natural, it's human. You're going to thank them. Remember what I said earlier about the social part of social media? Put these out there, nice, simple graphics. Thank you to everyone that's been part of the cause. Tag them, and it's another way just to put nice content out there. So your ideas. Now I'm not opening up the chat box because it's not just all about me throwing the ideas, and I know I've got some geniuses here. So if there's any questions, if there's any thoughts, has anyone got any ideas? If you could start firing them into the chat box, I'm then going to start having a look through to see if there's any questions. But any ideas you guys have got, like these tactics, what could we be posting online that takes that story and spreads it and makes it interesting? Oh, there's some great questions up here. Unsplash for free photos. Yeah, brilliant. There's a few different tools. Roxy said that there. Unsplash is a great one for stock. Off the top of my head, there's one called, I think there's either Flat Icon or Free Pick, spelled P-I-K. But if you also, guys, and I don't say I'm patronizing in any way, but I always say to people, Google it. Google free stock pages, free icon pages, and you will find some. Likewise, where we spoke about the statistics before, Google free statistics related to free quotes about, not even free, sorry, just statistics related to, you'll find blogs and things where people have created those before. So Alan said, content is one thing. How can one target electors in the same way as traditional leaflet delivery? Putting out material outside target area is unlikely to win an election. I mean, if you take that same mindset of leaflet delivery, of actually turning up at people's front door, and we change that to turning up in people's inbox, you could just be sending out private messages to people, Alan. I think that's one way to do it. And then obviously, if you've got budget, you can also do targeted campaigns. I hope that helps answer that one, but that's what I'd almost suggest is you start sending those messages.
James,
Yes.
just somebody said, just to settle on the targeted posts idea, someone has asked whether that it's worth doing that, because if you have got a bit of budget, is it really worth it? From my perspective, I've never found it that worth it, but I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I never feel comfortable telling people where to spend money without knowing what they're spending it on. But one thing I will say, and kind of excuse my brashness on this, but I say to people, you can't polish a turd, but you can pay to promote it on social media. So it's not so much about the fact you're promoting it, it's what are you promoting? So what I would recommend, if you've had a post or you've made something that was highly valuable, that got loads of messages, let's say you said you made a report or a mini resource or a blog post, and loads of people sent you messages from that, you can then go, hold on, that brought in a lot of leads for us. That was valuable. Now put some paid spend behind that. Remember what I said before about this is what we do with our clients. We create creative, we spend time on this, then we have paid specialists who target it. But in general, if you don't have that time to create the creative yourself, I always recommend look at what has been very successful for you and then put some paid spend behind that. But likewise, I can see we've got some creative people in here. If you know your creative is high value, if you have an event coming up, then yes, pay to promote that. By paying and targeting in the right way, you're always going to get it seen by more people. But I'm always careful about suggesting it because I don't want you to pay to promote something and it goes to the wrong audience or it wasn't the best creative. Does that help? Does that make sense? See some nods. Okay, great. So yeah, so I'd always say, guys, consider the budgets, but where you can, paid posts, if it's high value, it's always going to perform well and get it in front of the right people. Julius saying the clothing industry contributes to the second highest polluters on the planet. Yeah. So yeah, guys, any facts as well, any like statements, anything like that is always a good thing to do. From Paul said a great point there. Speak to the local community Facebook pages. Guys, as well, if you can get to people who run pages, where I said before about knocking on all those doors, sending all those inboxes, if you can find influential pages, journalists, there's nothing stopping you direct messaging them. I think someone said in the last session about how do we get in something like the Telegraph and the Daily Mail. You could add those journalists on Twitter and on LinkedIn and send them a direct message. You could comment on their posts. That's how you start to build those relationships. We've got Paul saying, create your own page that talks about community. Yeah, 90% news, 10% call to action. Love that. So yeah, keeping that news, keeping that updated, and then subtly inserting in there calls to action. Suggestions of good places to find relevant statistics. Guys, honestly, I would Google them. I would just Google best statistics and be really prescriptive with the text related to. But also things like Mintel are very good. Also, if you go on social media, you can just sometimes search council statistics. Normally, there's some people that have created those as well. Pixabay, another great site. So Jim saying gets multiple more likes for posting a nature pic than ever for something council orientated. Love that. So Jim gets more likes, but Jim, question, does that bring in more leads? Does that bring in more sales? And this is what we try and stand for is, yes, it might get you more likes. I have people that they get their least likes on the posts that actually end up bringing them in the most sales. So that's why I always challenge people of do that mix. And it's great that you're putting out those nature pictures. So if you're putting, which I'm imagining then if you're getting a lot of likes on them, beautiful nature pictures, that's your personal stuff. But then once a week, you're putting a call to action or something about Flatpak. That's how you start to tell that mix. Guys, these are some great
and
questions.
it's my name that I want them to look at on a ballot paper.
Amazing.
That's the recognition.
Amazing. It makes you personal. It makes you personal. It's another thing. So again, if Jim was putting nature pictures 7 days a week, great. But then there might not be anyone actually knowing why they should vote for you. But if you're putting nature pictures 5 days a week and 2 days a week, you're making those reasons why to vote for me, then we're on to a winner. Jim, is that a picture behind you that you took?
Absolutely. And when I go on to council meetings, I put backgrounds on that actually relate to the place where I am. So in other words, if I go to a particular council meeting, let's say in Broughton, I put a local landmark on the back of Zoom. Or if then I go to Pytchley, another village, or Harrington, and it's such a simple thing, and people look at that in the background and realise where you are. There's Maudsley. I went to a parish meeting and someone said, why are you sitting outside the village? It's lockdown.
Love it. So guys, as well, and thank you, Jim, for sharing that. It's those kind of personal things you can do as well that make you more interesting to people, make you humanized, and it's about having that mix. So thank you very much for sharing that, Jim. And we see here, Luke said about video, guys. Yes, in general, if you can get high quality video created, video will always be the most engaging, and it's about targeting. I love this, Luke. Usually me just speaking to camera in front of a local landmark. Brilliant. That's an idea we're going to be sharing in a bit. Guys, I don't know you all, but I'm already going to say by the fact you're here, you're all on the majority, very likable people. Get yourselves on camera. The way you're going to start feeling more comfortable on camera is by being on camera more. Remember what I said, no one's overanalyzing it as much as you think. Every single client who I've ever got on camera, the first time they've got on camera, they've seen so many leads, so much benefit from it, that their fear has almost gone away straight away. So that's brilliant. How can we share graphics campaigns with each other so we're not starting from scratch? That's a great question, Ken. I don't know if there's maybe a general resource hub or something for Flatpak. Maybe that's something for Flatpak to explore, creating a resource hub, or whether you guys have like a Facebook group. Guys, these are brilliant. So I'm going through as well because we've got some great stuff. Yeah, as Alex said, document, not create. So it's also, and I'm going to share this in a minute, it's telling your story, taking that learning process. And yeah, I'd love that, Alex. Not always trying to create perfect content. It's just get the content out there. You've got some, create your own, write down anything you find surprising. Yeah, love that from Alex. Write down anything you find surprising or reading the news, and put your, when you write those down, also put those out there, put your opinion on it, share that. And guys, at the end as well, I can share some of these sites with you. We can share these back in an email, get these around there so you've got those sites. Free podcast production tool from Tony. There is one called, I think it's Audiogram. But guys, again, if you just Google free podcast production tools, they'll help you get those. See some other things. Celebrate other local groups. That's amazing. From Roxy, yep, share others. Anchor podcast app, yep, that's one of them. Thank you, Adam. Filming the meetings, yeah, guys, taking me on the story. And yes, brilliant. Guys, these are brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm going to carry on now some more ideas and some more things. Please keep putting stuff in the chat at the end. We can answer any questions. Guys, I realize there's a lot of stuff we're going in through and taking through. So I hope this is really valuable for you. So the next one, actioning research and asking for community support. So if you guys are looking into something yourself, if you're researching something, if you're trying to pull some information together, don't be afraid to put it out there and ask the community to support you. As we said, that kind of human side of things. Easy to action tips. Guys, using something like Canva, share tips. And this might be tips related to the policies. It might be tips related to the local area. But if you can share tips, if you can help other people, that's always going to make them come back to you and see you as that kind of expert source. What we do, so this is an example for Pickeroons that we created. Very simple. As we said before, and I think Alex said this, that sometimes it's great to have the message, have everyone seeing you and knowing who you are. But if they don't know what you do, they don't know what you stand for, then you're maybe missing out that next bit. So don't be afraid to put things out and put a post out. Let's say once a month, you're going to put a post out, and it could be the same post. We put this post out on Pickeroons maybe every 2 or 3 months. Every time it's the same post. And a nice excuse is you could almost say something like, we've had a few new followers recently, so welcome very much to the page, welcome to our newsletter. Just a reminder, here's what we do. And that's a way you're going to keep it top of mind of what it is you do. Infographics, so you can create. So infographics, if you want to create any infographics, again, look to the designers. There is a tool, I believe, called Infogram, info.gram, and you can create infographics on that. You can then take those infographics, and let's say if there's 15 statistics in an infographic, then you can break those down and they can each act as separate posts as well. So that's another idea to think about doing. Creating empathy and starting debates. So a bit like where Alex said before about actually putting things out there, anything that surprises you. And I like the idea of kind of being a bit provocative in a way that starts those debates. This is something we did for Behind Bras, and it was all about, could you empathize with a woman who's been to prison for stealing, but admitted she did it so she could support her family. Now, when we put that on LinkedIn, that had some great debates below it. And sometimes it's just about you acting as that kind of catalyst for other people starting the discussion. So that's always something you can do that would encourage that engagement. And you can then start to learn some things about how people are feeling. Pledges, starting with your team. So if you guys have any pledges, anything you can say, right, here's what we're committing to for the next month, for the next week. You can see this one for the plant-based games. That's always a nice thing to do as well. People like to follow challenges, always works very well. Stories, and this is kind of really taking off what Alex said, but it's stories. Telling your own story, telling the story of people who've been affected by your movement, by your campaign, telling the story of the people that you want to help. Where you can tell stories, whether it's an image, whether it's a video. Something we've done before as well is change the names to protect people. But then you can also put those stories out. We're humans, we engage with stories. It always works well. Live stream Q&A. So where we said before about getting yourselves on camera, this is someone I used to work with called George Sullivan. And we just used to get him every 2 weeks to answer anyone's business questions live on Instagram. And again, it means that you're going to become more present. You're going to become more in front of people, but you can also directly have those relationships. Resources and positioning around what you do. So where we spoke before about maybe what could you promote, maybe you create a resource, and let's use Flatpak as an example. With Flatpak creating a resource, which you can now use, that's high value. So that's the type of thing you could look at maybe promoting, maybe getting out there. We've created a content calendar template because we know that's what helps our audience. So if you can think what resources would help our audience, and then you could create those. I mean, maybe now is a good time we could jump in the chat quickly and just see, anyone got any thoughts on any resources, anything we could share? I actually can't see the thing to jump in my chat now. Alex, would you just be able to share with me if there's anything in the chat about any great resources we could put in? Ah, here we go. It's popped up for me.
Yeah, sorry.
No, all good, all good. We created community asset bingo. Oh, love that. That's so good. Try creating infographics on Canva also. Yeah. Local bin and glass reuse collection dates. Brilliant. And
James, can I ask a question?
Of course.
I would love to know, I'm going to selfishly hog this for my own. I've never asked you this, but do you have any, like, if somebody did want to do an Instagram Q&A, because I've never done one before and I kind of want to, but I just don't, I just haven't really, is there anything, do you have any tips on that? Do you know, like, what, yeah, just, I guess, things that you should know about doing that, or things that you should.
Yeah, it's a great question. And guys, like I said, I hope you guys are finding value in this, because I realize it's a lot of stuff, and I normally deliver these as almost sometimes full day workshops for people. So there's so much I could go into in different parts of this. For the Q&A on Instagram, it's really about kind of setting the boundaries early. So another little subtle plug for Picaroons. I'm going live this Thursday on our Instagram to answer any and all questions. Now, very early, I'm going to make it clear of these questions are only about content marketing, and please write your questions in the chat. So then it's maybe, and you could maybe say, right, we're going to limit these to 1 minute answers. I know I could talk about a lot of things of social media and bore you all day. So it's actually, you might say, right, guys, ask your questions and I'm gonna do 1 minute answers. Also, you could almost ask for questions beforehand. So can you please comment the questions on our Instagram post, and we'll be asking these plus any other questions you have. Maybe it is about having someone else in there. So it's maybe, Alex, it's not just you, it's you and Sam. And then one of you is almost looking at the chat and kind of interviewing the other. So it's really about, again, just do it. You'll figure out, people appreciate when you're going live on Instagram that it is going to be a bit more rough and ready. They're not going to be expecting a super slick show. It's more about just you guys getting yourselves out there, getting yourselves in front of people. Does that help, Alex?
Yep.
Great. Relevant Zoom council meeting clips regarding an issue. They're all on YouTube from Jim. Love that. And guys, thank you very much for sharing all this stuff. It's great to see when you ask a question and people actually put stuff in the chat. So I really appreciate it. What simple free video editing software do you use to chop up Zoom recordings? Guys, that you can use things like iMovie is a very simple one. Again, sorry that I keep saying this, but if you Google like free editing software for Zoom, people would have written down exactly what those are. Roxy said they're OpenShot. As well, is there anyone, I think Paul's just sent a message about sharing some stats and experience. Yeah, Paul, do you just want to jump on quickly and just share what you said about some of those stats?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm from Cannock Chase in Staffordshire, and we created our group back in June, July of last year. A combination of Labour, Lib Dems and Greens all coming together. I run an IT company by day. I'm not a marketing guru at all, but I'm really interested in James's first slide, if you remember back, which was the pie chart around that 90% of content really, and then 10% of call to actions. So what we did is we started straight away, very naively, putting up lots of politics stuff, what's going on in meetings, what's happening here, what's happening there, and we got no engagement at all. Nobody interested. It's all boring. We got a few people, but didn't get anybody at all. And then one day the police closed the road, and we literally put up a kind of road closed sign and said, this road's closed at the moment, the police are dealing with an incident. And that went massive straight away. And we got a lot of traction on that story. So then we kind of stepped back and thought, what we need to be doing is more news, a little bit of goss that's local to the area, and build upon that. And then the word I use is crowbar in some of our other stuff. So for example, we created this page, and at one time we had everybody's other pages that we were kind of competing against in that list, including Ashfield Independents, who, for those who know, are an independent group up in Nottinghamshire. And we're now in second place behind our MP, who also happens to be the chair of the Conservative Party. So we've got 5,500 followers now. Now, granted, a lot of those aren't there for the politics; they're there for the goss. You know, there was a cannabis factory closed down yesterday in a pub that's had 300 shares, but it's been seen by 30,000 people. So it's given us an opportunity. It's given us a platform to be able to get our information out there.
Yeah, get your message out there. Hello? Yeah, that's brilliant. I think that's one of the, you've jumped ahead, which is great on some of the ideas I'm going to share, which is, yeah, exactly that. So it's getting involved in the news side of things. Oh, sorry, was someone else saying something there?
I'm fine. You've got a pink dress on.
Great. So, as we said, Paul, thank you so much for sharing that. And guys, look, this is something that for you guys as the community, if you could start, but you could all mute yourselves as well, please, if that's all right. If you can start sharing news, if you become the ones to break the news, then that's always going to be brilliant, because you become the news source for everyone else, which automatically makes yourself the expert. So guys, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for those thoughts. I'm going to kind of keep cracking on now. We're getting through some of these ideas, sharing some of the lessons, and then we'll do some questions at the end. Guys, just to make it clear again, I'm going to share with you the list of the tools afterwards. So whether I share that, Alex, maybe I'll share it with you and we can share it out to everyone, but we'll get that email to you so you've got a list of the tools, because I know that sometimes it's hard to quickly write them down. So I will share those with you. Why did you start? A bit like Alex said, weaponize your story. Share with people what led to you starting your story. What is it that drives you? That kind of authentic connection is going to be where you're going to get other people resonating and joining the cause, but also knowing what you stand for. Power statements. So I love this and what Alex was saying before. Guys, just take a nice statement, whether it's something that stands for what you stand for, or if it's just a lesson. And you can see here a really nice, simple graphic designed on Canva that's just going to teach people things. And if you look here, there's quite a lot of text in the caption. So it's not always about using the visual space to tell the whole story. It's using that visual to make people, we call it thumb stopping content. What's going to make them stop their thumbs when they're scrolling and then have a read of your post? And especially in what you do, because you're standing up for people, you're trying to build a better future. These can be like big, lofty, strong statements that are going to inspire other people around your cause and around what you do. Tips, anywhere you can share tips. And I saw already before some resources, but real tips on how to be better in the community, but also related to tips of what you plan on doing in the community. Give people tips that are going to help them. And this is across any industry, whatever you do. The more you give away, the more information, advice, and guidance, the more people start to see you as the expert and come to you for more support. Talking heads. So I can't remember who it was that said it before about them jumping on camera. We call this talking heads, which is you, whether it's you put your phone up and prop it up and speak into it, or you just hold it and speak in. Guys, you could do a weekly news summary of what you or the team or the council have been up to. You could do a monthly opinion piece on what's been happening. But what this guy Danny does is when things happen in the news, and when Alex said before, share news that surprise you, he jumps on and he records a video talking through it, what his opinions are. So get yourselves on camera, get yourselves out there. You'll become more visible, but people will also start to understand what it is you stand for. Behind the scenes, so I think Alex said this before about kind of collecting and documenting, show what you're up to. I know maybe right now you can't say I'm at this location, but guys, today, I hope that you guys at some point have taken a picture of you at a screenshot or a picture of you at Flatpack Democracy and said, here's where I am today, learning and moving forwards for the community, something like that to show what you're up to. People are nosy. That's why a lot of people are on social media, is to have a nose at what you're up to. But it's a really nice way to tease what you're doing. If I tell you later this year, I've got my second book coming out, I'm already putting little teasers every time I work on it on my social media pages, so people know that's coming. So do show behind the scenes. Weekly content commitment. So you'll see here, we've got Feedback Friday from the lovely charity, which is called Rays of Sunshine. If you guys can think up something weekly that you can do, and I've seen a few examples before that were dropped in, but guys, if you can do that, that's how you start to build a community that will come back each week. And that's for your own time. You could say, right, every Friday, we're going to go live, or every 2 Thursdays, we're going to do an Instagram live Q&A. So it's that type of thing that by making those commitments, and again, I realize we've gone through a lot of stuff today, but if you can pick 2 or 3 of the things from here and commit to doing them once every week or once every 2 weeks, then you'll start to have that content rolling in. Easy to action challenges and fundraising. People always like a challenge. People always like something fundraising. The easier you can make it, the more likely people are to engage. So anything like that you can think of will always perform well on social. Ask the audience for help. So this was for a company which helped set up called Agitate Music. It was for youngsters who'd previously been homeless, trying to help them get into the music industry. They're all extremely talented. After we did our launch party, we just put a post out saying, we need some reviews. We need some testimonials. Can you please send these to our messages? So as I said, guys, by being interesting 90% of the time, you can ask for help, you can ask for an action the other 10, and it will actually lead to some action. How to support us. So this might be how to support our cause. This might be how you can help us campaign or how you can join us. But again, guys, here for Designability, they just made it really simple. The more simple you can make it for people to help, to join, to follow your journey, put that out there and explain it. Have a point of view. This is a bit like what Alex was saying before, but guys, You haven't always got to go for the middle ground, especially in what we're all doing, pushing these campaigns, pushing this new way of doing things. Don't be afraid to have a strong point of view and to stand by it and to put it out there and to accept there's going to be conversations. There's going to be people on the post disagreeing with you, but by showing your light, showing what you stand for, you're only going to attract other people who feel the same and can relate to you. Positive social proof. This is something we did for Behind Bars. So it's shown that for every £1 invested in support-focused alternatives to prison, £14 of social value is generated. Guys, in what you're all planning, what you're all working towards, the more positive social proof you can gather and you can collect, the more likely it's going to be to hook more people in. Inspiring stories, kind of going back to those stories before, but I liked what everyone was talking about, becoming champions of the community. You can share inspiring stories from your community on your page to show that what you stand for is building a better community. Q&As with specialists. So we spoke before and Alex has a great question about how do you get online? Sometimes it's not just about having yourself there alone, but bringing in someone else. This is something we did for George Sullivan. We brought in other specialists who George could then interview. Those specialists then brought their audience. So where we were speaking before about how do you grow the audience in front of the right people, Q&As with specialists is a great way to do that. News with your own opinion. So guys, this has come up before, and thanks Paul for sharing that. If you can share news and you can put your opinion on it and see here, do you agree this can change? Let us know in the comments. They're asking for that debate. They're asking for those opinions. Acting as the news source. If you can be the first one to break news, if you can be the first one to get it out there, as we said before, that can lead to very high engagement, because instead of sharing the news from a news source, people always prefer to share it from another person. Being timely and relevant. So this is something which I shared, and this was, I don't know if you saw this campaign from the government about creatives having to retrain in other industries. Now it's related to what I do because it's the creative industry. I saw this, it's not my content. I thought it was great. I shared it, and you can see here, 220 odd likes, 40 comments. I had loads of people messaging me. It wasn't even my content. I just shared it, and I was one of the first few to do it. So where you can have your finger on the pulse, that's always going to help as well. So I'm just going to quickly open the chat before I jump into some extra lessons before we can have some time for questions. I can't open the chat. So Alex, is there any question?
Yeah, just going to quickly go back. So I'm going to go backwards because it's easier.
Yeah.
To what extent do you think one should engage in debate with sometimes aggressively hostile responses on Facebook?
Yeah, I love that point. That kind of jumps ahead to the next point I'm going to make of know what you don't post. So know when you do get involved and know when you don't. Have those clear guidelines. So part of your guidelines might be if someone gets aggressive, we then just ignore them. As long as you then ignore every person that you ever get an aggressive argument with, you're staying on brand. But you might say, no, we're going to do that. So it really is about, sometimes you can't avoid it, but it's about how do you react, and knowing that for yourself of it's okay to sometimes just say, no, we're going to ignore it. But if that's the case, you almost need to be ignoring all of the negative comments. Does that make sense in how you'd treat that? Because also something we do, and we did for Behind Bras, is we created like a crisis response document. So we knew there'd be a lot of people saying, if Behind Bras stood for women, what about men? So our go-to response was, look, at the moment, we can't stand for everyone. Our plan in the next few years is to have part of the business which supports men. But right now, this is how we're getting the business out there. And that was like our set response to that issue. And if someone said, serves them right, they should be in prison, we had our set response, which was something based around, but could you empathize in this way? So as long as you're very purposeful in the way that you respond, I think that you'll always be able to feel more comfortable going into those arguments. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think it's good about boundaries. There's a question from further up, which was, I'm just trying to, find it, about you using YouTube for Q&A instead of Instagram and Facebook because, some people might not be signed up or object to Facebook. I'm just going to find where that.
where it comes to the channels, I'm not going to tell you which channel to use. You can use all of them in different ways. Without kind of knowing the ins and outs of your business, I'd never want to recommend one over another. What I would say is choose the channels you feel most comfortable on, because then that's where you can use it. You could use YouTube if you want, anything where you can kind of go live, put the content out.
I guess the question maybe is then, but do you think, I mean, I guess it does depend on the purpose, but is YouTube, can it be used for you live Q&A, YouTube, and do you think there's any advantage to it, or do you not think there is?
So I thought it was more, could you put your Q&As up on there? I don't believe you can live stream, but I don't know if you can do the live Q&As on YouTube. I always say to people, a better one for that is Instagram Live. Twitch is like a gaming platform people use. I wouldn't want to say off the top of my head, absolutely no and absolutely yes. I haven't heard of many people doing lives on YouTube, but I do know that you can stream in certain ways on the platforms. But my thing's always, and it's a bit what you said before, Alex, it's not so much about which is the best platform. There's people from all sorts of industries on all sorts of platforms. It's about being like the best person on that platform, if that makes sense. But from a YouTube point of view, you could always do an Instagram live or a live stream or webinar, live stream on Zoom, record that, and then upload that to other channels. I'm going to quickly go through these lessons then, and then we can answer any questions if that's okay, because I want to fire these out, you guys, get this across. I hope this has been valuable so far and giving you guys some ideas. And now we're going to go into some real just overarching lessons that might help you take all of this information and feel a bit more confident about what to do with it. First one, guys, take a photo of this, follow these feeds. These are 4 feeds that do content very well. If you're not on Instagram, that's fine. I think they are all on Twitter or on Facebook. And if not, you can Google them and perhaps find their website. They all make content very well in the type of realm that you guys are in. And I think they'll be good inspiration for you. Brand colors improve recognition by over 80%. This came up in Alex's last talk. Guys, have a clear color. Where he said 300 feet of content, you want to be standing out. It is no mistake that Picaroon's blue is a nice bright color that catches people's eye, and that I plaster it shamelessly everywhere. That's what hooks people in. Take a photo of this slide. If you don't already have brand colors, this can show you some of the subconscious things. And guys, this is what my team do. This is content. We can do these as half day, full day workshops, but take an image. And if you haven't already got colors in place, this might help you with what your tone is and how you want to present yourself, what colors you could be using on something like Canva. Your font needs to be easy to read. Guys, when you use a font, it's very tempting to use the ones that look quite nice and that you like. But if you see here, every single word on here has a different font, but your needs B and 2, those type of fonts are a lot more clear. They're called sans serif fonts. But in general, if you can look for fonts that online can be very quickly, very easily read, that will always benefit the audience. The curse of knowledge. Now, I don't want to say you're all cursed, but the likelihood is you are. Most people are cursed in what they do because they know so much about it, they can't comprehend how little other people know. So remember, and as Alex said in the last one, keep it simple. Make your message of what you stand for simple, put that out there. And I say to people, try and not be cursed, because remember, other people when you're speaking to them aren't as involved as you. So really keep that simple. Tell your story. Look, this is kind of really directly lifted from all of Alex and Sam's teaching. Get your story out there. People are going to follow your journey. They might hear you talking all about this flat pack thing right now, and it might be 2 years before they actually engage with you. But over the next 2 years, you might give them that story behind it. So they're going to come on board. And when they do, they've already got a good idea of who you are and what you stand for. I like this saying, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. Guys, you haven't always got to write essays in your post. Sometimes it can be very short, very sharp, but then it's about just getting that message across. So do remember to keep it short, keep it simple. What don't you post? This kind of links into the question before about avoiding arguments or things online. Know what you don't talk about. If you talk about news in the local community, do you only share positive news? And you don't ever share negative news? We work with people to put these guidelines in place, because by having those guidelines, you can then feel confident about being online. Do you remember what I said about behind bras? We were saying that for them, they always called out the problems around prison reform, but they never called out people. They never called out specific prisons, because we never wanted to disassociate ourselves from people that could be helping us in the future. So make clear guidelines of what we don't say, what we don't post. Mix it up. There's a nice little food analogy I like to use for people. Now, assuming that most people like pizza, sorry if you don't, but please here imagine your favorite meal. If I was to serve you your favorite meal every single day, eventually you would get sick of it. Social media content is the same. If you put testimonials out every single day, people are going to get sick of seeing the same thing. Whereas if you now think, let's have more of a balanced diet, let's have more of a balanced content diet. If every Monday you share a testimonial, every Tuesday you share some news, Wednesday a video explainer, you start to mix it up and reach more people. So I always suggest to people, try and put out a mix of content. So some action points. So one, guys, if you haven't already, put a post out today about the fact you've been here. Take a screenshot from one of the earlier ones, take a photo, maybe at the end of this, we'll get the Zoom up with everyone here. Show people as part of your story that you've been here and tag Flat Pack Democracy. If you haven't got it already, please set up your branding. Make sure you've got a color you commit to, a font. Guys, remember 90% interest, 10% sales. I hope this has been interesting to you. And the 10% sales, get my book. My book will help you with all the stuff we've just covered. It's got the tactics. It will break it down. It's got the tools. It mentions Canva, Hootsuite, all of those different things. That is in there. If you don't want to get my book, and even if you have my book, write your plan. Write it down. Treat your social media like any other part of your business, where you say, on a Saturday morning, I schedule. On a Wednesday, I post this, and so on. Create and schedule the relevant posts. Because let's say if you have 2 posts scheduled every week, you have one statistic and you have one power statement, as we called them. Then every Friday, you create a video to summarize what happened that week. Now you've got the 4 other days of the week that you can fill in the gaps with what you're up to, local news, and be more reactive. So I always suggest to people, try and get at least 2 or 3 posts scheduled a week, because that then fills in the gaps when you're very busy and you haven't got time to post. Action the plan ongoing. So that's where you fill in those gaps by curating, sharing content from others, live updates. And guys, look, I followed Flatpack for a while. I know what it is you guys all stand for. So next step is you're going to go change the world. You're all doing amazing work. Best of luck with it all. I've really enjoyed today and I hope you found it valuable. I'm going to jump into the questions now, but I believe in about 4 minutes we need to stop, Alex. Am I right?
Yeah, in about 4 minutes we are going to be doing an open Q&A, I think, with Peter and a few others. So I think the main question in the chat is about, can you explain more about hashtags?
Yeah, I always get asked about hashtags. Okay, when you say explain, so I'm just going to fire some stuff for you guys. So the first one, a hashtag is a way that by putting it out there, people can then, let's say we were to hashtag Flatpack Democracy. If you now click on hashtag Flatpack Democracy on Twitter, on Instagram, if you touch that name, you will then see all the other posts under that name. So what it then means is it essentially collects things together. Now, I could do a whole day of presentation on how you can use hashtags. At its most simple, by including them, you will get noticed. So maybe start using the hashtag of the name of your party, of your community group, what you stand for. That's how I suggest them. You can also use hashtags to find other people's content. So maybe if there is, well, let's use Black Lives Matter as an example. If you wanted to join that conversation, you can click on the hashtag on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Black Lives Matter, and you can see everyone else's posts and you can start engaging with them. So I hope that helps. Sorry, that's the quickest version I can give you of hashtags. Any other questions that help on that? And I'm just going to go, yeah. So guys, I'm going to stop sharing the screen now and we can get everyone up here. There we go.
Humanity.
Have I done that right? Yes. So guys, if you haven't already, please take a screenshot or take a picture on your phone of everyone today, whether it's thumbs up, waving, and say, this is where you are today. Tag myself in it, tag Flatpack Democracy in it, tag Alex in it. Like, you want to be showing that this is what you've been doing today. You are up to something, you're working on something, and it's a way to just document your story. So any other questions? I'm just slowly scrolling up.
Don't think so.
Isn't that only if you have a mobile phone? Yes, Julia, or we could screenshot it as well. So I'm going to screenshot now and I can do this. There we go. I've just screenshotted everyone. So, and that's another plug for me. Now, guys, if you want to go to Pickaroons on Facebook, on Instagram, on James Berg, on LinkedIn, I'll post that up. But guys, yeah, take a screenshot if you haven't got a mobile phone to take that. But guys, just now I can see you all. A thumbs up if that was helpful for you, if you've taken something from that. Wonderful, amazing. So I couldn't see you all through that, so I was kind of firing it all out and only seeing a couple of you. But guys, yeah, look, it's amazing what you guys are doing, and hopefully this will give an idea or two, something that you can take away in action.
So thanks so much, James,
No
all that wisdom and knowledge. I just realized how many things that you've told me to do that I don't do to make our social media better. I like it so much that I ignore from you to ours. But I'm just slightly unsure about whether we are being joined on this call or whether we're joining another call if you want to do the open Q&A. So I haven't checked the schedule. So I'm just gonna.
Sorry, I was just seeing it. Hillary said you can use YouTube for live Q&A. She was at one yesterday. So yes, you can absolutely use YouTube for live Q&A. I didn't want to say absolutely yes, then you will come back and add me and start shouting at me because I got it wrong. So yeah, you can use YouTube, use the platform. But guys, thank you very much as well for engaging in here. It always makes it useful and there's some great points and great ideas.
Alex, the schedule I can see has a break now, followed by the translation of politics.
Well, what we were going to do in the last conversation I had was that we would do an open Q&A with a few of the Flatpak team now. Obviously, you can go and have a break, but we would do that for the next 20 minutes or so, and then have a 10-minute break before the feminization of politics sessions. Freudian slip there. Starts at 5 o'clock. So okay, I'm just going to double check with whether it's it's just a question of whether it's a different Zoom link or.
Just while you're sorting that, I love this from Dina about in her experience, hostile people often turn to pussycats when you engage positively. That's what I've found. I found by being overly nice back to people, and I don't know enough about kind of all of your personal tones, but by being overly nice to people, kind of kill them with kindness, they then end up looking a bit daft because of it, and there's not much they can say. Whereas a lot of them, they're trolls, they're looking for a negative reaction. And if you give them that, sometimes that can then reflect badly on you.
I think that the thing with the negative is that quite often it will be, I think we are holding this space open for the Q&A, but I think it will often be, you know, really a minority of people, but we just, because we're primed to look for danger and threat, like biologically, it feels so big and so amplified. And you think, oh my God, I'm getting negativity pulled back at me, when actually the majority of the people are lovely and interested and and it's just really hard. You just got to switch your brain to go like, you know, it's your 90%, 10% rule again. Like 90% of people are up for this and are interested, and 10% might. So it's just not giving them the airspace often.
Yeah, it's just about having it written down of what do you do, like really planning ahead, like crisis comms, like you would in an offline situation. How are you going to respond if someone says something? And by knowing that, as long as you keep doing that to everyone, every time someone says something horrible to us, we're going to write in capitals back to them, I love you. As long as you do that for every single one, you're going to be on brand, you're going to keep doing the same thing. And I promise you, like Alex said, there's going to be 90% of people that are going to start loving you for it. And there's not many of them. The trolls, people don't like trolls in general. Even if they agree with them, they don't like them. They don't like the fact they need to try and embarrass someone. So yeah, if you can be uber kind back to them, kill them with kindness, it normally works quite well.
Yeah, okay. So just to clarify with everyone, we are going to have a 15 minutes Q&A. Probably hand over to Roman on this one. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. So I think we're going to do a quick 15 minutes and then have a brief break before the 5 p.m. session.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much to you guys for those those 2 workshops back to back as well. I was dipping in and out of them, but it seemed super helpful. Hopefully everybody's been frantically taking notes throughout as well. But yeah, we're just going to leave it open at the end there. There was a couple of people who are going to hopefully join us who have also just gone through this kind of process and run their own campaigns. And yeah, just sort of like just off the back of that, what you guys have been just talking about, really, just as any kind of open questions that you have for anybody who has won at parish or unitary level as well. Hopefully Caritas will be joining us, who won in Portishead as well. Just, yeah, I mean, just do a little bit of Q&A, which you're kind of already doing, but just to kind of continue that conversation for another 15 minutes or so, if people would like to do that. So maybe that stopped you in your flow there by announcing that we're doing Q&A. We were quite happily doing
Roman, it's Paul. I'm happy if you want to share the screen. I can show some of the stats of the stuff that we've been doing actually on the screen and show our insights and what we've been doing, what's been working, what hasn't been working, and some bits and pieces like that if you want.
Yeah, that sounds great. I don't have the, I'm not actually a host here.
I will share the screen. I mean, sorry, I will make you, sorry, who am I making?
I am me.
Paul, right,
Yeah.
okay. Just let me make you the co-host.
So just to really expand on what I'd said earlier to James, really, we created our party in June, July last year. None of us really any kind of social media gurus, but what we worked out quite quickly was that, and I'm going to share this now, and you're going to see all yourselves, and then I do that. Can you all see that now?
Yeah.
So we set up in June, July last year. We just did bits and pieces around politics, and we did a bit of a Zoom conversation where we had all the councillors on and basically just talked through ideas, and it wasn't particularly effective. So what we started to do was post on news bits and pieces. So if I scroll down here to this is Business Manager within Facebook, but this is a really good way of being able to see where you sit alongside other parties, other politicians, other councillors, other pages, community pages. So we started off down here in June, July last year, and we're going to need to find some new targets because we now sit up here. Amanda Milling is our MP. She's the chair of the Conservative Party, and I imagine within the next week or so we'll be pushing her off that top spot. So we've now got 5,500 Facebook likes. The one thing that I thought was important to mention was in terms of the followers. So although we've got 5,500 likes are different to followers, and that likes are people who will publicly show that they like your page, whereas followers are people who will follow the news feed and follow what's happening, but don't want to go, hey, I'm a big fan of yours. So our followers are 7,100 odd. So the followers are actually more important than the likes, because when you're putting your stuff onto the news feed, it will be seen by the followers. So you can like a page and not follow it. So the followers are more important. But what we actually had last week, if I quickly jump into a post here, in Rugeley, just down the road from where we are now, we actually had a power station blown up. See, as you can see, we post quite a bit, and that the reach on that post reached 1 million people. Now, arguably, that was global, and you can see the kind of stats we had from that here. But the point being is that we were giving it to a bigger audience. The bigger audience we can deliver the content to, the more people locally will start to engage in that content. The other one to post here was the cannabis factory I mentioned earlier. It's just a news story locally. The gossip was the police were parked outside and everybody wanted to know what it was. So we contacted the police and said, what are you doing there? And they told us. We then put that onto the internet, and we've had, I don't know, 61,000 reach on that, and we've been able to grow that. So what we've started to do now is every Monday at 7 p.m. we do a live Facebook stream where we pull together the kind of week's content in terms of what we've been doing ourselves within the council, and also the local news. and we push that out every Monday live, and then take engagement from people within the Facebook chat and bring those comments up onto the screen, so they have a little bit of airtime, and we engage with that. So it's just really a really kind of quick razz through of what we've been doing as a group to grow that. The other thing really worth mentioning was around the leads. That the only thing we've really paid for is leads, so that we could say we're looking to get more people involved in what we're doing, because at the moment we've got a very small team doing this, and we've actually had 30 odd people fill out the leads to say, yeah, actually I want to get involved in this, because at the moment, as you all know, the community involvement in anything is so strong, stronger than it's ever been in the past. So I think we spent about 100 quid and we got about 30 leads, and the people who've come to us as a result of that are really, really good people who we'd have never reached or never heard of unless we'd spent that 100 quid. So money worth spending.
There was a question there as well about how many councillors or campaigners could answer how many hours they spend on social media.
I spend way too many hours on social media myself. Like I produce the TV show as well here. Unhealthy amount of hours.
If I could just add on mine as well, I spend loads of time on social media. It's sort of my hobby, really. I think we actually I created a Facebook page back in 2012 for the community, Facebook groups with everything from lost cats, and what that's allowed us to do is to grow a really quite big and substantial audience. It's seen as the official one. It's my group, and it allows me to share information there as well. But we also did we created in lockdown, we created a TV channel, a YouTube TV channel, which was populated by videos and stories from local people. So we got the local fire station to read fire stories about, fireman Sam or whoever, or to write things, and local songstresses, and did walks out into nature and things, and filmed all of that. It was an incredible way of engaging with lots of people and getting that sort of brand recognition and awareness and getting people talking. So it's if you like doing it, I think it's an open-ended question. You can spend forever on it.
I tend to spend an hour and a half a week on social media. Exactly as James says, you pick up stuff, fly tips, potholes, all these things that sound really boring, and respond to people. When someone comments, you write back, and nowadays you always say stay safe. My little tip is get your name printed on your shirt or your blouse or your whatever, because as you walk the streets during an election, all the people you don't engage with see you there. And down in the pub, they say, well, he wasn't around our street. People will say, well, he was. I saw him walking down the road. He had it printed on him. I even put the imprint on the back.
Yeah, Alex, go for it.
I was going to say, the bit I find the most time intensive is not so much the posting itself, but it's just, all the stuff James talked about, where you want to be a bit, and obviously everything I was trying to say about being a bit different or standing out. It's allowing myself that creative time to kind of go through maybe other people's social media feeds. I have like 10 newsletters that I subscribe to that I do think are really good, and I like them. And I try to get Sunday morning, like coffee bedtime, to just kind of comb through them and just like see what stands out, like what am I paying attention to, and maybe read a few of the stories in a bit more depth and kind of just use that. It's more that I need to gather the information rather than do the actual posting.
So one thing that I always say to people on that, and guys, again, thank you, but that workshop was really like a shortened version, is daily, weekly, monthly. So plan what you do daily, weekly, monthly. And that might be once a month, you sit down and write a blog. It might be every Friday you go live, you respond to something. And then it might be every day you post on your stories and you comment. Like I said, I view it because it is my bias, but this is part of your business. So for me, the best time for me to engage with people, respond to people, is every morning. That's before things start flying. So first thing I do when I have my breakfast is check my social medias and make all the responses then. but I know that I'm not going to be in a creative mind through the week. So a bit like Alex there, on the weekend, a Saturday morning is when I make my content for the next week. But then also once a month, I put a day in where I have no calls, no meetings, and I sit down and I will make videos, blogs. I brief our designers on bigger projects. So really, I appreciate and understand the question of how long do other people spend, but it really is, it's what I always say to you, what works for you, make it fun. It's probably the most fun form of marketing because it's free to enter. So don't let yourself get stressed with it. Find what works for you. And that's kind of my suggestion on that, is break it down, like Alex said, of, yeah, every Sunday morning I do this. For me, December is the best time that things are quiet. So I make most of our content for the next year in December. That's my way of doing it. But for you guys, it might be, yeah, every day we check. So I hope that helps as well in that. Roxanne, she has a Sunday thoughts post on a Twitter page she manages. Love it. And you know what happens if you forget one Sunday? Everything still goes on. Everything's still fine. No one is sat there going, where the hell is Roxy's Sunday thoughts? I'm never following them again. So it's like, try and get yourself in that habit, but don't let yourself kind of get massively stressed if it's becoming overwhelming. It's an hour a day. Nice.
So unless there's other burning questions that people have got, I think it might be good to sort of end soonish, because yeah, it's been a long day and that was a good couple of hours of workshopping time there. And I would really recommend everybody comes to the Feminization of Politics workshop at 5 o'clock, because we've got some really great speakers for that one. 3 people that are just like really doing really interesting things in their various fields. So unless, yeah, maybe any kind of like any final questions people have got, well, we've got a few councillors here. We've got Alex and James with all of their amazing input as well.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you, Roman. It's been really brilliant.
I'm glad. Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. And it's great what you're doing. Yeah.
Again, just like echoing the gratitude there to everybody for having come along, and to all of you guys for coming along as well. And like, good luck with the campaign. So hopefully you've been, yeah, you'll like use this and take it forwards into the campaigns you'll be running soon, or already running. But yeah, otherwise I think we'll maybe call it there. Thanks so much to you guys, and hopefully, yeah, see you all at 5 o'clock for the Feminization of Politics workshop.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alex.
Yes.